Ray Dalio is no stranger to bold statements. However, his recent advice to not buy anything right now has been a topic of discussion in financial circles and beyond. Why would someone with his expertise make such a recommendation? This is the question that has left many people, from seasoned investors to everyday workers, wondering what exactly is happening in the world economy. To understand his message, we need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Dalio's words aren't meant to scare people. They're actually meant to warn us and to wake us up to the realities of a changing world. It's no longer just about understanding the markets or investments. It's also about understanding the forces that are shaping our lives, our decisions, and our future. Imagine for a moment that you're standing in a crowded marketplace. The sun is shining, and everything looks alive. Sellers are shouting, buyers are haggling, and the atmosphere feels almost perfect. But then you pause, listening closely, and that's when you begin to hear the whispers of concern. A few sellers are quietly admitting that their goods cost more than they should. Some buyers are realizing they're overpaying for items that might not last. And beneath the surface of all this activity, there's a sense of unease, a feeling that something is not quite right. This is exactly how Dalio sees the global economy right now. On the surface, it looks stable and thriving in some areas, but when you dig a little deeper, you'll find cracks forming in the foundation. Dalio believes that the current environment is full of risks that most people aren't paying enough attention to. For starters, let's talk about the economy itself. Dalio warns that many of the things we're buying, whether it's stocks, bonds, or even homes, are overpriced. Think back to 2008, when the housing market collapsed. At that time, people were buying homes at prices that didn't reflect their true value. And when the bubble burst, the impact was devastating. But Dalio isn't saying we're on the verge of another crash. What he is saying is that when prices are left inflated, they leave little room for error. And he believes that errors are becoming more likely. One reason for this is the slowdown in economic growth. During the pandemic, governments around the world pumped money into their economies to keep them afloat. That money helped people to continue spending and kept businesses open. But now, those savings have run out, and debt levels are rising. It's just like trying to run a marathon after sprinting the first few miles. You'll have to slow down. The economy is in a similar state. It's basically struggling to keep up the pace. And then there's inflation. If you've noticed your grocery bill getting higher or the cost of gas eating into your pocket, just know you're not alone. What inflation does is, it eats away at the value of your money over time. Central banks, like the US Federal Reserve, have been raising interest rates to try and fix the problem. But Dalio thinks inflation isn't going away anytime soon. It's like trying to plug one leak only to find another one springing up somewhere. Now combine all of this with rising debt. Let's face it, most of us rely on some form of debt, whether it's a mortgage, a car loan, or even a credit card. Even governments and businesses depend on borrowing to fund their operations. But here's the catch. When interest rates go up, as they have recently, the cost of that debt increases. Think about a family with a fixed budget. If their loan payments suddenly double, what happens to their ability to buy groceries or pay for school? This is what's happening on a larger scale to economies around the world. Governments, too, are feeling the heat. The United States, for example, has reached record levels of national debt. Imagine having a credit card bill that most of your income goes towards paying the interest. That's actually what many countries are dealing with right now. And while some people are hopeful that central banks will lower interest rates to lessen the burden, Dalio doesn't share their optimism. In his opinion, the focus on controlling inflation means rates will stay high for longer than we'd like. But Dalio isn't just worried about the economy. He's worried about the world we live in. Geopolitical tensions are at an all-time high, and they're creating a layer of uncertainty that's hard to ignore. Let's start with the US and China, two global superpowers locked in a fierce competition for dominance. From trade wars to technology bans, their rivalry is shaking up industries and economies. Imagine being a business owner who relies on materials from China or exports to the US. How do you plan for the future when the rules of the game keep changing? Then there's the ongoing war in Ukraine, which has disrupted global energy markets and driven up the cost of oil and gas. For countries in Europe, this has been especially tough, but the effects are being felt worldwide. And as if that isn't enough, the recent conflicts in the Middle East have added even more uncertainty. Historically, unrest in this region has led to spikes in oil prices, and this time is not different. It's like trying to steer a ship through a stormy sea where every wave adds to the challenge. The thing about geopolitical risks is, they are unpredictable. One small spark can ignite a larger crisis which will send shockwaves through markets and economies. Dalio warns that many people aren't factoring these risks into their decisions, and this makes them even more vulnerable to sudden shocks. Political instability is another problem. In the United States, the just concluded presidential election proved to be one of the most decisive in history. It's difficult to plan your finances while the ground beneath you keeps shifting. All over the world, political unrest, leadership changes, and social tensions are making it harder for governments to address economic challenges effectively. So, what does this mean for us? Dalio urges us to be cautious and thoughtful. Think of it like preparing for a storm. You wouldn't leave or windows open or ignore weather warnings, right? Dalio wants us to take steps to protect ourselves financially in the same way. He suggests focusing on savings and avoiding impulse purchases, especially big ones like homes or cars. When interest rates are high and the economy is uncertain, these decisions carry more risks than usual. This is also a good time to build a financial cushion. Have some extra money set aside to help you weather unexpected challenges. For those who are investing, Dalio advises that you spread your risks across different assets. When you do this, you can reduce the risk of losing everything if one area takes a hit. Beyond these practical tips, Dalio's message is also about mindset. He wants us to understand the bigger for ES at play, such as long-term economic cycles and structural challenges like rising inequality and aging populations. These trends aren't going away anytime soon, and they make the current environment even more complex. In the end, Dalio's warning is a reminder that we can't afford to be complacent. The world is changing, and we need to adapt. Whether you're an investor, a business owner, or just someone trying to make ends meet, his message is clear. Be thoughtful, stay informed, and prioritize long-term stability over short-term gains. Remember that preparation is key. When you take small, deliberate steps now, you can position yourself not just to survive, but to thrive even in the face of uncertainty. Who knows? When the storm passes, you might even find yourself in a stronger position than ever before. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear this.